is Betstars and Stripes with Dr. Turf, Ed Wyatt and Alice Gander.
Betstars and Stripes for another Sunday night on 11:16 SEN. Thank you to Cam and Steve once again for hooping around. Just quickly, a couple of scores to tidy things up. Queensland, well, are in all sorts of trouble anyway. They needed 380 to win. They're 7 for 122, so at least one bonus point heading the way of the Bushrangers, who are looking at a 200-run plus victory after scoring the third highest domestic one-day score in Australian cricket history. Just a couple of other things as well in the A-League. Perth defeating Brisbane Roar in a grand final replay 1-0 with a goal at the start of stoppage time, 91 minutes into that match. But of course, Betstars and Stripes brought to you by Betstar. Take Betstar on at betstar.com.au. We welcome first of all Ed Wyatt to the program. Ed, nice to have you with us tonight again.
Darren, good to see you. Good to be back.
And a couple of people that obviously would have kept a very close eye on the Turnbull and up in Sydney over the course of the weekend as well. I speak of Turfy and Alice Gander. G'day, boys.
Yes, evening. Dash, Al's been whinging, of course. One of his bet types lost on the weekend, so he's just sitting here bleeding all over the studio floor.
It's great to be back, Doc. Obviously, we're just starting to find our mojo here on this show, but it's great to be back. It was a great weekend of racing and really starting to get into the show. I'm really enjoying spending an hour talking about US sports.
Yeah, and there's been plenty of that. We had a great round of NFL last week, and I see the divisional playoffs are underway in the Major League Baseball. I think there was a couple of games this morning. I think we've got 3 tomorrow morning, so it is all happening stateside.
Yeah, the getting a real workout on the remote. In fact, I forgot that Cincinnati-San Francisco game started. I was flipping between some college football and something else, and then went, there's baseball on. So watched a little bit of that. But the wild card thing, before we get into the NFL, just a bizarre addition this year, which was great during the regular season to keep people's interest. They added the second wild card instead of just one. So you had a real the pennant races went down really to the last couple of weeks. But then you had this bizarre one-off game. You had St. Louis against Atlanta, and you had the Orioles against Texas. In that Atlanta game, I'm not sure if you saw that bizarre infield fly rule call. The crowd went nuts. They were throwing bottles on the field. There was a huge delay. Essentially, a poor umpire's call has cost the Braves this game, and because it's a one game, bang, their season's over.
It sounds
Crazy.
like there's a new ESPN doco.
Yes, exactly. That's coming.
About to be made.
Get it on. Crank it out. That's exactly right.
It's a pretty even field in it, isn't it, Ed? I mean, it looks like looking at the market for the World Series.
Open.
It's absolutely.
I think it is.
You've got the Yankees, you've got Detroit, you've got the Cincinnati, all $5 favourites to win the World Series. You've got the Washington Nationals at $5.50. You then go to the Cardinals, $9, Baltimore at $10. And then you've got the Giants and the Athletics both at $11. So it looks wide open.
See, I think that Giants at $11 is a pretty good thing to look at. That's a good baseball team. It's a team that's got some pitching. If they get it right, I think they'll be okay. Now, they lost the first game to Cincinnati today, but the Tigers and the Giants, to me, are two teams that may be able to do something.
It's on the back of that loss. They were into $7.
Right.
On the back of the loss, they've gone from $7 out to
5-game series is tight as well. You don't want to lose, but, by the same token, and I guess that's in San Francisco as well, I think. So, yeah, you're right. That makes sense. But still a pretty good team.
Actually been to AT&T Stadium in San Francisco, which is
What do you think of it?
Well, it's great atmosphere.
Yeah.
I mean, fantastic atmosphere. It's quite a small stadium, but...
that's how they build them.
They
build them 40,000 seat stadiums because they have so many games.
I think, sort of people complain about the food at the footy here. The food on display at the American baseball, I mean,
It's crazy, isn't it?
You buy a hot dog and you can actually feed a small African nation on a hot dog there.
And I tell you what they also have done, seriously, is they've made some unbelievable... When I was back in Seattle recently and was going through that ballpark, they have a Thai restaurant in the ballpark. Yeah. So you're on the concourse, and the guy's whipping up a meal there just in a walk. Well, it's at the game.
I was actually there when Barry Bonds was on the doorstep of that record.
Right.
And it was bizarre because he was basically booed by supporters from both teams. He was that unpopular.
That's true, isn't it?
He got walked, and when he got walked, people were cheering that he'd been walked. Anyway, just quickly, the Yankees, who I think finished on top of their division, the American League.
Just barely, yes.
With their payroll...
$200 million.
Yeah. Does the Do baseball fans support the Yankees? Do they hate the Yankees? Where do they sit, really, in the psyche of the American sports fans?
I've sort of always seen them as a bit of a Collingwood in a way. I mean, I know that's an easy comparison, but I do think, and this has been lessened a little bit, my theory is that the Red Sox have lessened this a bit. It used to be the Yankees were hated. They were the big payroll team, and everyone else was kind of off. It was sort of Yankees, daylight, a bunch of other teams, then a bunch of little teams. The Red Sox and these other teams have sort of spent the equal money, or pushing the Yankees for money. I think that's lessened the hate. If you're a non-Yankee person, I think the Red Sox have actually lessened that a little bit. I know with me, all these Johnny-come-lately Red Sox fans in the last couple of years, I've really started to dislike them almost as much as the Yankees, which I know is strange.
You get to see the Yankees live, I think, tomorrow morning, about 9:05. I think there's 3 games tomorrow morning.
And they're going to play the Orioles, which is a team I barracked for as a young kid. And
Are you from Baltimore?
I did. I grew up in Hagerstown, Maryland, which is about an hour from Baltimore. I used to go to Orioles games as a very young kid. And then when I moved west, I kind of lost touch with them. But it's great to see them back in. First time since '97 they've been in the postseason.
Now, another higher-ranked side obviously hosts more of the finals, but Mike asked the question, why does a team with a better record usually start the series away from home? It could cause them to lose momentum.
I think as they finish the 3 you get the advantage that you play 2-3. I think that's what they do.
I thought you were going to say it had something to do with the All-Star game.
That's the World Series.
Which
they
is
still have
which
that.
is bizarre. Is it not?
Strange.
It is not.
It's a way to try to keep the All-Star game relevant, but I'm not convinced that does it.
Yeah.
What are we making, gentlemen, of New England? They're back in the winner's circle. They had a 52-28 win over Buffalo away. Having said that, they were trailing 21-7 in the third, so they really played a quarter and a half of good football and managed to get away with a convincing win. Does that mean they're back in town, or is it an aberration for a quarter and a half?
Look, jury may be out. I think they are back, an easy, let's say a non-committal back in town. I think, ironically, we were hammering Gronkowski last week. He caught a touchdown pass. Wes Welker seemed to be back into it. I think the interesting thing is they ran the ball a little bit, which I think was really interesting. New England has not had much of a running game for a while. So, I look, cautiously, I'd say that's a nice result for them.
I made him my dud last week, Gronkowski.
You did, didn't you?
I think I've actually kick-started his season for him.
He must
I
be
think he
listening.
heard you. Yeah, I think so.
But that's a big game, and the two of the biggest quarterbacks of all time, head-to-head.
Coming up, yeah, I think so. But it was a big test, New England and Denver coming up. But yeah, I think it's a good result to get them back on. Buffalo is a decent team. I think they've got some designs on making the playoffs, so I think that's a nice result for the Patriots. You wouldn't want to give up the 28, but to score 52, that's what they've done. I mean, that's been their MO for the last few years.
Speaking of a big result, we were discussing it just before we got on air. What about the Jets? That's a big result for all the wrong reasons, but nonetheless a big result. They got smashed by the 49ers 34-0. It takes the 49ers 3-1, the Jets at 2-2, but it looks like it's mayhem over there. Mayhem with the quarterbacks, what they can do with Sanchez and Tebow, and just the wheel nuts are coming off.
It's gone pear-shaped for the Jets, hasn't it, Ed? I mean, they really failed to deliver a postseason the last couple of years, or at the end of the season, both the last couple of years. Well, it's come back to haunt them because they are really battling. And to be shut out, how often are there shutouts?
Yeah, no, it's a relatively rare occurrence in the NFL. Yeah, you usually normally get a 3 on the board at some point.
And they were horrible last week. And, gee whiz, you wonder how, given that he's such a larger-than-life person, Rex Ryan, you wonder how long before the knives are out for him.
Well, we're going to find out. Sorry, guys. We're going to find out because they've got Houston coming to town. This is undefeated Houston. Yeah. It's all on the line for the Jets. It's at home, so if they throw in another performance like this, they're going to get booed. They're going to be Tebow chants. Yep. So this could be a fascinating game to watch.
Let's listen to him now.
I apologize for my language because I was going to say we got our butt kicked, but really we got our kicked. And there's no two ways, ins or outs about it. You know, we go in, it should be 7-3 at halftime. It's 10-0 because mistakes we make. And then we come out, I don't know, turn the ball over 4 times, convert. Here's the recipe for getting kicked. All right? 2 for 13 on third down. That's 15%. 4 turnovers. A block punt when they rush one guy and giving up 245 yards rushing. How's that for a recipe?
Is he the coach of that particular team? I think he was.
Rex. And he said ass, by the way. That's what he was saying, or arse, so you want to say it.
What do you do, Doc? Do you cut him loose now? Do you cut Sanchez loose and play Tebow, or do you persevere with the game plan and a strategy you had in place pre-season?
I tell you what you do. You back their opponents at the minors. I don't care who the quarterback is. I don't care what they do. Just unload because they are shot.
Well, they say if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, this is broke. So you got to do something. My take is you got to do something.
But
it's not working.
Can they really rely on Tebow?
Yeah, I think you got to stick with Sanchez. I think that's the way you've got to go. This is a huge game. I mean, let's not underestimate. It's a big game for Houston too. We've been saying this is a team that is headed towards the Super Bowl potentially. They're 4-0. They go into New York, going to face an angry New York team, a team that really has to win. Is going to have that crowd there. I think this could be a fascinating game to watch on so many levels. If Sanchez is terrible for a half, then you've got the Tebow question, and you got to start thinking about it. I don't think you can't just chuck it in right now because we saw that with Denver last year. Then you have to commit to Tebow for the rest of the year, no matter what. I think
the line I think is 9 with Betstar, but I noticed the money has been for the Jets at the +9. So defying what I'm just saying. But,
that doesn't surprise me because I think there's still, like I keep saying, that until we see Houston, I think a lot of people still don't believe that the Houston Texans are an elite team. And I think until they prove it, I think people are going to still have those questions. And I think they see this as a chance for the Jets to redeem themselves, and maybe Houston falls off.
The one interesting thing about that, Ed and Al, is that if this game was played this time last year, the betting would actually be reversed, would it not?
Probably.
I reckon it would have been reversed, so which is unusual. So I know we're up to week 5 now, but gee whiz, running out of patience for the Jets. They hurt me last year, I got to tell you.
Running out of patience. Let's talk about another team that's doing it tough this year, the Saints. I mean, they're hosting, or New Orleans is hosting the Super Bowl in February, but the Saints are 0-4. They may be a little bit unlucky, but they lost by a point to Green Bay in Green Bay, 28-27. A lot of pressure on this team now, and I guess playing postseason looks like a fading memory or a fading hope.
Yeah, I can't see that happening now. It's just about sort of salvaging the season. Interesting game in Green Bay, kind of went back and forth. Packers actually got nearly shafted by another call, a fumble that they should have had, and then you could see how quickly people switched from, the regular refs are back, to these guys are just as bad as the replacement guys. But for New Orleans, I think it's about pride right now. I think it's about Drew Brees getting these guys together and making sure they can salvage an 8-8 season or something like that. I don't see them making the playoffs, Alan. I agree with you, but I do think there is some pride there in playing at home and a chance to sort of turn things around. There was not a bad effort last week at all, I'll be honest with you.
I mean, they're 0-4. They are going to start favourites here, despite the fact I think their defence is ranked 16, is it not?
It's not a good defence. Yeah, it's
really giving up 400 odd yards a game.
Really struggling.
So, look, it is an interesting game, but, I guess the coaching issue and everything else, but they have been horrible, the Saints, so far this year.
And we have to mention, I think Brees, if he throws a touchdown pass, breaks a record held by Johnny Unitas, former Baltimore Colts superstar from the 60s and 70s. So that's a huge thing. And I believe Sean Payton is going to be allowed into the Superdome to watch the game because of his connection with Drew Brees. So maybe they'll wire him up. Maybe they do the wire.
I mean, with all the technology.
Your suggestion. Maybe they
Surely
do
they get Morse code or something. Just do something.
Morse code.
On a more positive note, the Vikings have been a surprise package this year. I think they beat the Lions 20-13 away from home, and they've started the season 3-1, which is a fantastic start to the season. They've been $151 into $67 to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's a great story. I mean, and they've just passed the bill to get a new stadium built, so it's always nice when the team actually plays well when voters approve a new stadium. I'll be honest with you, I've not watched a lot of Minnesota this year, only the highlights. Christian Ponder's done a nice job as a young quarterback. They've got a good